Flight Dreams, a Mark Manning mystery, Book 1. Author, Michael Kraft. Publisher, Open Road Integrated Media, New York. Narrator, Eric Ost. Monday, October 19, 74 days till deadline. Roxanne remembers younger years when even the worst bitch of a hangover lasted only 24 hours. Now the doozies last 48. Her Friday night binge, which flowed nonstop into Saturday morning, left her vomiting in bed by that afternoon. Sunday, she could barely move, dehydrated, racked by both fever and migraine. She finally managed to eat something solid by evening while exchanging a few heated words with Neil. She was tempted to call in sick today, but there were far too much work needing her attention. Besides, she deserved to suffer through a Monday's penance at the office, so here she sits, propped by her forearms at her desk. Though the worst symptoms of her bout of intemperance have mercifully passed, she feels shaky and depressed in its aftermath. The latest edition of the Post lies before her. Its headline proclaims, "Waiting game may be over. Investigators to get tough on heiress murder suspect." In the byline story on page 1, Humphrey Hastings has written, "The public may soon be offered a modicum of enlightenment into the mysterious circumstances surrounding the disappearance of airline heiress Helena Carter." Deputy Chicago Police Superintendent Earl Murphy revealed to the Post late last night that intensive administrative efforts are underway to bring a prime suspect to justice. The article explains that Carter's houseman, Arthur Mendel, will soon be the subject of an inquest. The hearing is not technically a trial, as no formal charges have been filed. However, Murphy conceded that the inquest will in fact be held in a courtroom before a judge. No date has been set. With a disgusted flick of her wrist, Roxanne tosses the Post to the floor, where it mingles with sections of the Morning Journal, which she has skimmed for a similar headline. There is none. Rising from her desk, she begins to pace the office, stopping at the window to bite her lip. Looking out across the city without seeing it, she glances toward her feed and at the Post headline, reading it upside down. Things are heating up, getting messy. She really ought to phone Manning and discuss all this, but can she? She was justifiably pissed at him, as well as Neil, and she's nursing the hangover to prove it. God, what made her do it? The reason has gnawed at her all weekend, but it has not, till now, congealed into thoughts formed in words. Jealousy? She asked herself. Yes, airhead, it's got something to do with jealousy. Plenty. You needn't be so analytical. This is no great mystery. You want to be screwed, right? A perfectly natural drive. Is that so hard to admit? You haven't betrayed your career or compromised your feminist instincts by owning up to your desires. They're the two men you've wanted most and apparently have the least chance of getting. Neil is the best looking man you've ever met, and you've known from the start that he's not available. Yet, you've tortured yourself through more than 10 years of friendship, hanging on to the dim hope that maybe, someday, he'll lay you. And then there's Mark. Intelligent, sensitive, eligible. A perfect match. Or at least a good candidate for a long, comfortable affair. You've had him exactly once, but it was years ago, and you sensed even then that his heart wasn't in it. Face it, you've wanted each of them, both of them, to splay you like some damned animal. And what'd you get instead? An evening home alone, guest of honor, at a party for one. While the two of them spent the night together, God only knows what went on over there. You may have lost them both for good, and who's to blame? Who brought them together? Wouldn't it be a scream? The very height of perverse justice if you ended up losing them to each other. Roxanne licks her lower lip. Now puffy and raw, grated by her teeth, squatting clumsily in skirt and heels, she snatches up the Post and shoves the tabloid into the wastebasket by her desk. Then she kicks at a section of the journal that lies near her feet. The broad sheets of newsprint respond with a dull, unsatisfying slap against her shoe. So she kicks at Manning's paper again, breaking a heel. She drops to her knees, pounding the scattered pages into wads that crinkle between her hands, gathering the shreds into her arms, pressing them to her chest and face, finally stuffing the mess into the wastebasket. Tears stream down her cheeks. Her shoulders heave with convulsive sobs. When she has regained control, she hobbles to the desk and wipes her eyes as a child might with swipes of her palms. She takes a mirror from her purse and checks her face, only to find it smeared with streaks of black from her hands, filthy from the journal's ink. She stares at herself in disbelief for a long, silent moment, then erupts into laughter. Several blocks away at his desk in the journal newsroom, Manning has also trashed a copy of the Post, though without the theatrics indulged in by others that morning. "Mail call," intones Darrell as he sidles into Manning's cubicle. He examines a note-sized envelope. "Looks like a love letter," he coos with a single silky movement. He hands over the letter and disappears down the aisle with his cart. Manning turns the envelope in his fingers and finds no return address on either side. There is the imprint of a generic post meter, but no postmark. His curiosity stirred, Manning slits the envelope and removes a single sheet of plain white bond. He unfolds it and reads the message carelessly typewritten. "Mark Manning. Anyone with a modicum of imagination could figure out that the houseman did it. I see these things. I know you do too. People in your position should take their social responsibility more seriously. An untimely end faces those who betray the public trust. You are warned by a friend." Manning holds the letter up to the fluorescent ceiling lights to see if the paper has a watermark. His suspicion confirmed, he laughs openly. Setting the letter on his desk, he reaches for the phone and dials. Darrell cruises by again with his cart, breaking stride long enough to ask, "A secret love?" "Nah," says Manning, bored with it all. "Death threat?" "I'm impressed," Darrell says over his shoulder as he trundles off in the opposite direction. Manning's attention returns to the phone. "May I speak to Roxanne Exner, please? This is Mark Manning." After several tiny measures of tea for two, the music cha-cha is cut off by Roxanne's voice. "Mark," she says with a strange combination of surprise and restraint. "I was about to call you. You've seen the Post?" "Sure," he tells her. "I've also just read one of Humphrey Hastings' less predictable literary efforts." "Whatever do you mean?" she asked with confused inflection, straining to establish a chatty tone. "I got something from him in this morning's mail. Listen to this." He reads her the note. "How perfectly dreadful," she tells him, her concern now genuine. "But what makes you think it's from Hastings?" Even though it's not signed, his style is unmistakable. What's more, the stationery carries the Post watermark. The clincher, though, is the typing. Hastings mentioned at your party that he still uses an old newsroom typewriter. In the days before electronic typesetting, reporters wrote their copy using multiple carbons, and newsroom typewriters usually had their type modified, replacing the lowercase e with a block-style capital so that it would remain distinct on fuzzy copies. The letter I got was typed on just such a machine. It has to be from Hastings. "Good Lord," she says, convinced of the letter's authorship. "Do you think he's actually capable of harming you? Physically?" "I doubt it. More likely he's simply trying to lend credibility to his houseman accusations, hoping I'll jump on the bandwagon, which would enhance his Post campaign with the journal's stamp of legitimacy. I'd actually admire the man's cunning if he weren't so inept." "Even so," Roxanne tells him, "it's frightening to think that he would make a scapegoat of Arthur Mendel, that he'd be willing to sacrifice that dear old man for the sake of concocting a few headlines." "He may talk a good line about the public trust," Manning tells her, "but his personal ethics are nil. I'm driving up to the Carter estate tomorrow to interview Mendel and see if I can make any sense of this." "Good luck," she tells him. Thanks. I'll let you know if I learn anything, but actually, Roxanne, his tone is now distinctly less serious. I didn't phone you to talk about conspiracies or death threats. I was wondering what you and Neil had planned for Saturday afternoon. The mention of Neil's name hits Roxanne like a slap, reminding her that she's miffed. She tenses at her desk and grips the receiver with blanched fingers, her nails digging into the fleshy base of her palm. She exhales an indignant puff of breath into the phone before responding tersely. We have no plans. Why do you ask? Manning's voice buzzes from the earpiece. There's a cat show in the suburbs this weekend, one of the largest in the Midwest. I'd like to check it out to get a bit of background since Helena Carter was a big-time breeder. As long as you and Neil aren't doing anything, maybe you'd like to join me. Who knows? Might be interesting. Roxanne doesn't mention that she is allergic to cats. If she declines the invitation, Manning will surely extend it to Neil anyway. And she's damn not going to hand them another opportunity to frolic as a twosome. Thank God for antihistamines. They were invented for just such predicaments. Sounds like fun, she tells Manning with feigned enthusiasm. Are you driving? After detailing the logistics of their excursion, Manning tells her, I'm glad we could work this out. I really enjoyed getting to know Neil. Thanks for introducing us. She tells him flatly, My pleasure. After a moment's hesitation, she adds, It's too bad that Saturday's outing will be dampened by the farewells. Neil is leaving Sunday, returning to Phoenix, you know. Didn't you? No, I didn't. Roxanne could have predicted Manning's answer. Neil's decision to cut his visit short was arrived at only last night, after her testy confrontation with him. She made it clear to Neil that he had worn out his welcome. I'm so sorry, Roxanne tells Manning. The news has clearly hurt him, and she has summoned, with difficulty, a facade of sympathy to mask her pleasure in delivering it. A Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.